your time. Thank you for being able to find us. It's a very busy conference and not easy to navigate, so thanks a lot for being here with us. And I suggest that we start with the opening remarks by our partners DG NEAR first, which are pre-recorded. So if I can ask to start the video number 1, please. Yeah.
Deputy Ministers, Excellencies, colleagues and friends, I'm really delighted to welcome you all to this event. Climate change has become one of the most important challenges facing humanity this century. Under the 2015 Paris Agreement on Climate Change, countries have made commitments, the so-called nationally determined contributions. These provide a framework to guide national action on climate change mitigation and adaptation. Accelerating global climate action is at the heart of this 27th United Nations Climate Change Conference. It requires system-level transformations supported by leadership at the highest levels and by diverse coalitions across all sectors of society. We really count on all our Eastern partners to honour their commitments and to do the utmost to move towards carbon neutrality by 2050. This will contribute to lower emissions and lead to climate resilience. The European Union stands firmly by your side. We are supporting the development and implementation of climate-related policies and have been doing so in your countries for many years now. Our for climate
Thank you, colleagues, and many thanks to DG NEAR for these kind words. On behalf of UNDP, I also want to thank very much to the European Commission for the ongoing support and for providing us the resources to be able to deliver the results that we will be discussing today, specifically the low emissions development strategies until 2050. And with this, I wanted to give the floor to Dimitrios to open the event on behalf of DG Climat. Dimitrios, please.
Thank you, Yevgen. Hello to all. Well, my name is Dimitrios Zavgolis. I'm coming from the European Commission, from another directorate than my colleague Laurence Meredith represents. I'm from DG Climate Action, and I'm the head of the Multilateral Affairs Unit. So I have some kind of an intimate relationship with this project because I would say it's my baby. In my previous job, I developed that project together with the UNDP, and I'm really glad to see that running. Of course, we are less important than my colleague that gave that gave the introduction, because we are not those that are paying the project. We designed the project, but the project is paid by the other arm of the European Commission, the DG Neighborhood Affairs. So a few words from my side. I think a lot of you actually you remember that we worked together on regional cooperation with the Eastern partner countries. In the last decade, we had another project, the Klima East, and essentially this project is the EU for Climate is the successor of that project that was running till 2017, 2018. And with that experience back then, we thought that we need to work furthermore with the region, because the challenges we saw that only increase. We saw that the region, of course, has to try to come as closer to the European Union, and we believe that at the moment, and we still believe it that we need a very good partner for that, and we needed a model that will use as many resources as possible that are available on the ground. That's why at that point we decided to work with UNDP, since UNDP has such a good network of country offices and expertise in the region. Now, I'm eager to see whether our choice has been good. All the signals that we get are quite positive, but actually, since I haven't worked on the project for all these years, due to the change of my job, I'm really eager to hear from you, and particularly from the countries, what you think about the project. How do you see that this project had helped you to first develop your NDCs, develop your long-term strategies, but also how it helped you to come closer to the European Union? And I'm talking about all the policies that we were seeking to develop on the ground in your countries in order to get you closer. And already we see that some countries from the region are seeking to become members of the European Union, and you know very well that this is something that we are trying to find ways to move forward. So I will stop here, but I will keep my ears open, though it's pretty noisy here, to understand what we have delivered all these years in the region. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dimitrios, and I wish to thank once again DG Klima for the technical guidance and all the advice you provide us, because it's important not only to have the financial resources, but the leading by example, which is done by the EU. So thank you very much for that. And now I'd like to give the floor to my colleague Srilata Camilla to open the event on behalf of UNDP.
Thank you very much. So I'm Srilata Camilla. I'm Head of Adaptation at UNDP. So it's my pleasure to welcome everyone to this COP27 side event on EU for Climate. And I specifically want to thank the European Commission for their continuous support for the EU for Climate program. And also my pleasure to heartily welcome the representatives of the Eastern Partner region here. And we have Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and Moldova, as well as Ukraine. And I think the Azerbaijan government, my understanding, is not here, but you can correct me if that's wrong. But we'll have the program manager presenting the program. So again, hearty welcome to all. Now the long-term low-emission development strategies have become sort of a very key planning exercise under UNFCCC for countries to set themselves on a sort of long-term pathway to meet the Paris goals. And in this effort, overall, with UNDP's flagship work with partners on Climate Promise, a lot of countries, about 127 countries, have been supported in terms of their updating of their NDCs, strengthening of NDCs, and enhancing ambition. And in this particular region, I think 17 countries have been supported, and notably through the EU for Climate program. About 14 countries have updated their NDCs. and 100% of them actually strengthened and improved their mitigation targets, and about 86%, I understand, on the revision of the adaptation measures. Now, this region represents and features some of the most energy-intensive economies, but also countries and communities that have been facing severe impacts from the climate crisis. And UNDP has been supporting policy development in this region, low carbon development, circular economy strategies, clean energy transition, but also resilience building as well. And I just wanted to also highlight that, I mean, with EU's announcement in 2019 about their own climate neutrality goal and raising the ambition to cut at least 55% emissions by 2030, it has been an ambitious example set, and in joint efforts with the EU and UNDP, we have been able to, through the EU for Climate program, support many of the Eastern Partnership countries. And I just wanted to highlight a few examples because I know that our partners here will go into more details. But for example, in Armenia, the program supported the development of the national program on energy savings and renewable energy, which will become a cornerstone for the long-term strategy. Azerbaijan and Georgia have both updated and drafted LEDS as well. And I think with Moldova, you're updating it to ensure it's aligned, updating it to ensure it's aligned with the NDC targets. And we also welcome Ukraine, who submitted and communicated the climate neutrality and the strategy to UNFCCC in 2018. And today we'll hear from you presentation on the National Adaptation Strategy, which is also important as part of the climate action agenda. And I just thought, especially in my role as a lead for adaptation, it'll be amiss if I also don't highlight our partnership and work with support from EU as well in this region. Globally, we support around 100 countries on adaptation and about 50 countries on national adaptation plans. And I'm proud to say that in this region, in Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Moldova, we have supported advancement of NAPs from a climate vulnerability index, for instance, in Moldova, to updating of drafting a NAP in Azerbaijan, and in Armenia, some sectoral NAPs and local adaptation plans. So we're really, and I myself am very eager to hear from the representatives about their experiences and their valuable experiences in the development of this in alignment with your own long-term strategies towards the Paris goal. And I really hope that this event is also, and the experiences you share is also an opportunity to inspire others and lessons that from this region, from these countries, that can be scaled to other parts of the region and globally. So again, I welcome you all and wish us all a successful deliberation here. So again, thank you.
Thank you very much, Srilata. And with this, I want to pass the floor to our respected ministry partners in alphabetic order once again. So we do it as usual. It doesn't mean that somebody is more important than the other. And I want to invite Armenia to give opening remarks, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Groza. Thank you very much for opening remarks and for this I think intervention about all countries, so we also can know which country is in which level. And this is very important because when we're talking about the project about EU for climate, this is something I think without border, because we are talking about one ecosystem and we are talking about one environmental system. So when we're talking about energy efficiency as the priority for this agenda, so yes, the project helps for total primary energy supply and total final energy consumption. And if we are talking about that Armenia considers the further development of renewable energy, solar, wind and geothermal, so a vital direction of its energy policy as an essential guarantee for energy independence. I think we all talk a lot about energy independence and energy security, etc. and it will be in my intervention, but I think we all need to think about environmental security. Because when we talk about water, when we talk about climate, when we talk about forestry, etc., we talk about environmental security. So the one of this is energy security and sustainable energy security. This is what we want to create. And so for this, for renewable energy, the aim is to increase the share of solar energy production to at least 15% by 2030. I think the second question that you talk about, what this project gave to everybody for Armenia, this is something that clear target. We need to understand when we go through strategy and when we see some quite targets. So this is the reason why we start to work and to create this policy making, implementation of project, investment creation, financial and fiscal space resilience, because this is all about this, because the target, this is only the ambition that we put. Then we need to create the whole agenda through this implementation of this agenda. And finally, about energy efficiency targets that differ between the primary energy supply and total final energy consumption indicators corresponding to the policies and baseline scenarios. I think this is very important also to understand the second point that we have, that cumulative energy saving for the total final energy consumption will be amount of 931 kilotons of oil equivalent. So when we talk about these numbers, we are starting to get about investments, because I think everything about investment, and we need to think about this. And for me, this is honor to be here and to hear other representatives and showcases, and to understand where is our challenges, and start to I think to move together, because this is the reason that we need to do. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I want to say that it's an honor for the project to work together with Armenia, and we are very happy to both been able to help you with the energy efficiency and renewable energy strategy, and now working on the mid-century LED. So thanks for working together with us, and looking forward. Colleagues, unfortunately, the government of Azerbaijan did not confirm their participation today. I really hope that we will be seeing them during our future events, and today we will have a technical presentation led by our project manager in Azerbaijan. So now in the alphabetic order, I want to pass the floor to Georgia, please. Oh yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much. So first of all, I would like to greet you all, and it's my pleasure to be here today. Of course, on behalf of the government of Georgia and the Ministry of Environment and Agriculture of Georgia, I would like to particularly thank the European Union as well as UNDP for supporting us in advancing our policies on climate change related issues, which is of course important in our EU accession process. And I will start by reviewing the current progress and existing progress that we have with regard to the climate policy. So we've, as you may know, we've already updated our nationally determined contribution documents, which means that by 2030, Georgia is willing to reduce its GHG emissions up to 35% compared to the 1990 level. That's an unconditional commitment from the government of Georgia, but we do also have conditional commitment in case of an international financial support from the international donors and financial institutions. We are willing to reduce GHG emissions up to 57% by 2030. So that's a target that is already in our climate policy that is adopted by the government of Georgia, and the climate strategy and action plan. So all climate strategy and NDC and climate policy documents are accompanied with a very concrete climate action plan, so that allows us to monitor the implementation of the national NDC in practice. We are intensively developing our national climate law together with the Parliament of Georgia. so to identify the key targets and important aspects that is related to the Georgia's climate commitments, both nationally and internationally. This year we actually started climate tagging of our central state budget. So all the projects that is planned under the state budget is tagged by the climate. Is tagged in a way that is related to climate, whether it is mitigation or adaptation. But of course, it's also important to highlight in this event what was the important support from this very important project for the region and for Georgia as well. So the project actually supported us to develop long-term low-emission development strategy for Georgia. So these are the scenarios that is related to the climate policy of our country up to until 2050. And as it was clearly highlighted by the Prime Minister of Georgia within this COP27 meeting, Georgia discusses to reach its climate neutrality by 2050. So that's the path that is widely discussed at the government level, and we are planning to adopt our long-term low-emission development strategy by the end of this year. As it is already envisaged by the association agenda, which is approved with the European Union, together with the European Union. So that is a commitment that we are planning to follow and to adopt the agenda, to adopt this very important document for the country. And as I highlighted, this document paves the way of the climate neutrality for Georgia by 2050. So of course, there will be additional discussions on that topic at the government level, but we foresee and we believe that this strategy can be approved by the government by the end of this year. Of course, there are many more activities that is planned within the EU4Climate project. All of them, of course, is related to the climate, to advance the climate policy of the country, to take into consideration the European Green Deal process that is also widely accepted as important agenda topic for Georgia in the EU accession process. So within the framework of the project, we discussed and identified Georgia's perspectives with regard to the implementation and joining the European Union's Green Deal. So that is also very important while discussing the climate policy as such and alignment of our climate policy towards the EU's policy. Once again, I take this opportunity to thank to the team of this program, because I think that a lot has been done already, and that's very impressive, and that's very important for our region and for Georgia, of course, as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and it's a great pleasure to be working with you on the mid-century LES, but also I was very happy to hear that you mentioned the climate law, so I hope that we will both be able to help Georgia with this, but also to keep the network with other Eastern Partnership countries, because the same kind of laws are being developed, for example, in Armenia, Moldova and Ukraine, and we hope that we can use EU4Climate as a platform to do this job better. Thank you very much. So now, once again, in alphabetic order, I want to pass the floor to Moldova. Please, welcome.
Thank you. On behalf of the Ministry of Environment of the Republic of Moldova, I would like to express our gratitude and to thank for the strong partnership with UNDP and inclusively working with the EU4Climate project. With support of UNDP and the EU4Climate project, Moldova has updated the NAP program. It is the National Adaptation Program's second, and for the period 2013. First, it was elaborated in 2016, and it was done successfully. Also, with UNDP support, we have developed, and now we update the low emission development strategy to 2030, and we are thinking within the EU for Climate second stage to develop a long-term emission development strategy up to 2050. So with this strong partnership, we are focused on development of the legal base, because we need to have a legal base first of all. Then we also need to work closely with donor partnership, to have strong partnership and to develop country programs to implement our legal base and policy, developed policy. And also I am convinced that we need to have climate monitoring to monitor how efficient our policy and how our measures could contribute to achievement the assumed commitments in our NDC. Moldova has updated NDC in 2020, and we have ambitious commitments, and we are looking also to work with roadmap for decarbonization and to achieve by 2050 carbon neutrality for electricity production. So we are focused on all of this, and of course we need your support. And today, maybe later, I would like to inform about our case for low on F gases development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as you mentioned, Moldova was among the first countries in the world to present the updated NDCs, and I'm really proud to be able to work together with the country on this. So thank you very much for all the joint work, and I hope that the next phase of EU for Climate will materialize and we'll have a chance to do more work in the future. So now I want to pass the floor to Ukraine for the opening remarks, please.
Thank you, Evgeny. Dear colleagues, Ukraine is going through. Ukraine is going through very hard times now. For example, I would like to inform you that based on our calculation, during the last 8 months of Russian invasion to Ukraine, the environmental damages has already exceeded about 38 billion euro. But nevertheless, you know, the life goes on, and we will restore our country, and this restoration will be based on new principles. This will not be simple copy-paste of the past. We will rebuild our country on the basis of green growth, low emission development. You know, 1 year or 2 years ago, I would not have to spoke about this so confidently, but today I strongly believe it will be just I said. As the final of my short speech, I would like to express my gratitude. The gratitude not only from me but from our ministry, from our country, to our partners. First of all, of course, European Union, European Commissions, and organizers of this side event, UNDP and EU for Climate project, for continuous and strong support Ukraine in this hard time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mikhailo, and thank you for being able to be here. I know how difficult it is starting with traveling from Kiev anywhere abroad. So thanks for all the resilience Ukraine shows and being still able to focus on climate policies during these difficult times. Now let me quickly do the introduction of the way this event will be organized and what we will do next after the opening remarks. So we designed this event to learn a little bit from the examples of each country from developing climate policies. So first of all, towards the mid-century LEDs, but also many other examples. For example, in Armenia, we'll be talking about the renewable and energy efficiency strategy. In case of Moldova, we'll be talking about the F-gas law, and for Ukraine, we'll discuss a bit the national adaptation strategy. Since not everybody present here in person and online as well are aware about EU for Climate, let me also say a couple of words about what we are doing since 2019 when the project became active. We have several thematic areas we are focusing on. These are obviously the mid-century strategies that we will be presenting today, but also the NDCs, which we help to update for many of our partner countries present here. Assistance with enhancing the national MRV systems, alignment with EU climate policies. Next slide, please. So here you will see a summary of the NDCs we assisted to develop. So starting with the NDC of Moldova, which was the first NDC in the world, and we also helped Azerbaijan to update the NDC, and we are looking forward to see it approved very soon. Next slide, please. And here quick information about the mid-century strategies. So in Armenia, we are working on the energy efficiency and renewable energy program, which I already mentioned as a cornerstone to build the mid-century LEDs. For Azerbaijan, the draft mid-century LEDs is prepared, and now it's pending approval after thorough consultations. And also we were able to help Moldova to update its existing low emission strategy until 2030 to align it with the second NDC. Next slide, please. Regarding the EU alignment, I wanted to mention just few examples of assistance we are providing. So initially we were focused on the work on ozone-depleting substances and fluorinated gases, but as we receive more requests from the countries, I'm very happy to mention as well that we will be providing next year, for example, support to Moldova with testing the installation level MRV according to EU ETS rules. And also what's been mentioned already today, the development of climate laws. This will be an important part of our work during 2023. Next slide, please. The adaptation strategy, this is the area where we support Ukraine. So last year we finalized the national adaptation strategy of Ukraine, essentially serving as the national adaptation plan. And in the coming year, we'll be also helping to develop the official adaptation communication and other additional elements. Next slide, please. And then, of course, our work, I think as everybody else's work, was dramatically disrupted by the aggression of Russia against Ukraine. You can see there just some illustrations of the destroyed renewable energy infrastructure, but also there's lots and lots of human suffering behind that. So we adopted our work plan and budget since February, and we are providing assistance for humanitarian needs in Ukraine. So we will be supporting internally displaced people to stay in the national parks of Ukraine throughout this winter. Also, our partner organization purchased mobile generators, and we will be delivering those soon to our partner communities. Next slide, please. So with this, let me finalize the project presentation. I'm happy to discuss afterwards. So now we will have a presentation of common achievements that we did during developing the low emissions development strategy for the partner countries. My colleague Elizabeth, who is online, will be telling us about the most important elements of the LTLS. So Elizabeth, welcome. Can you please test the sound? It seemed it worked fine, but
yes.
Perfect.
Does it work?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. But now all activities have been suspended since February this year. In Moldova, the project team supported in preparation or with recommendation and with the stakeholder consultation, the NDC and the LEDS 2030. So this slide illustrates a bit the current situation, the indicators, because as I already mentioned, the countries have national circumstances, and the colors here indicate the performance for each indicator. Green shows that it's a rather good performance, and red indicates that there might be room for improvement. So Armenia has a quite good overall performance, which can be explained by the use of nuclear power as a carbon-free energy source and hydropower. And its economy is not very industrialized, but it's a strong agriculture and service sector, so this contributes also. In Azerbaijan, this is a country being very rich of oil and gas resources, and so the economy and also the greenhouse gas emissions are very much designed by these two activities, by gas mining and refining of oil and also the accompanying fugitive emissions. And due to this domestic available of fossil fuels, also the renewable energy sources are hardly used. Belarus has a quite high energy demand due to the industrial and residential sector, and it also has a nuclear power plant which brings down the share of energy-related greenhouse gas emissions. In Georgia, we see that hydropower is the main source for electricity, and this explains the low share of energy-related emissions and the high share in renewable energy sources. In Moldova, the main economic sector is agriculture, and it has a comparatively low GDP and no domestic energy resources. So the renewables play a very important role, and these are currently mostly solid biofuels. In Ukraine, these numbers also refer to the period before the war. The industrial, especially the metal production and other energy-related activities, including fugitive emissions, contributed to the high GHG emissions. But the use of the nuclear power contributed to a lower share. So, yeah, you see that this is not, due to the different circumstances, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, and it's important to start looking at what is there and then to see what mitigation options can be selected. Here, this slide illustrates the different national here we see the historic, projected and targeted emission pathways of the 5 countries, and you can see that all they experienced very significant decreases in the 1990s due to the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And then countries recovered and developed their own economies, leading to a generally increasing emission trend. Now when we look at the first 2 columns, the red one and the green one, we can see that the emissions from the latest year are in all countries except for Ukraine higher than in 2010. The yellow column shows the unconditional NDC target. To keep it rather simple, it's only the unconditional NDC target which is presented here. And it is compared with the latest emission level. You can see that 2 countries, Armenia and Georgia, can increase their emissions and be below their 2030 targets, while others need to reduce their GHG emissions by several percentage points. In preparing for a long-term ambition, countries developed emission scenarios until 2050 and beyond. Presented here is only the best case scenario, which is comparable to the with additional measures scenario. And this shows that further decreases are expected in all countries, and remarkably high are these decreases in Azerbaijan and Georgia. The last column indicates when countries foresee to achieve climate neutrality based on their vision or on their emission scenarios, which is in 2050 or later. Moldova is the only country not having a target for 2050. This is due to the missing legal basis. So the low emission development strategy of Moldova focus on the time frame to 2030, and it provides an action plan and a way detailed description what needs to be done to achieve this target. Here you can see the key facts of the low emission development strategies, and we can see that they have many things in common. As already mentioned, finalized is only the last 2030 of Moldova and Ukraine, but this was already done in 2018. And in the final preparation stages are Azerbaijan and Georgia, and Armenia is under development, so first drafts are available. What all countries have in common is that the ministry dealing with environmental affairs, be it environmental and agriculture or similar, they are the main responsible entity for preparing these strategies. All countries use a whole in-country and an economy-wide approach and include all IPCC sectors, including the LULUCF sectors. Also, all greenhouse gases are included, so there is some, there is consistency with the greenhouse gas inventories. Regarding the time frame, it's for all countries 2050, except for Moldova, the reasons I already explained. The climate neutrality is also to be achieved by 2050, and Ukraine stated that it will be achieved by 2060. And looking if there are also intermediate targets which show the pathway towards 2050 or even longer. These are included in all low-emission development strategies. So this is quite important for developing and maintaining a monitoring concept to check on the pathway if stronger ambitions or measures are needed. Stakeholders consultations are carried out, and what is not included is adaptation, but this is dealt in the countries within a separate process. We will hear about this also from Ukraine. So this slide shows what the good experience we made during the preparation of the LEDs, and we see here, for example, the conservation of gender equality was considered by Azerbaijan when they developed the policy, the planning. Georgia carried out a very intense sensitivity analysis to assess the uncertainty of macroeconomic parameters, and good experience were made by all countries with a participatory approach, including the different stakeholders and discussing what can be done and what is possible. So this led also to the wide range of stakeholder consultations. Good experience was also made when analyzing or assessing the financial framework. So what is there, what is needed, how are the processes set up, and of course emission modeling. All countries gained new experiences and capacity in doing emission modeling. But not everything is easy, so we also had some challenges. One is the data availability. To ensure consistency and coherence about different strategies, for example, the national energy and climate plans. Then, of course, currently we all are very uncertain about the future development, and then also really bringing all the ideas and the development option down to define scenarios and mitigation options. So this is an ongoing challenge. And with this, I'm coming to an end, and I hope that I could provide you with a basic overview on the individual pathways and ambitions of the European Eastern Partnership countries and how the EU for Climate project is supporting them in implementing the Paris Agreement. With the written and nationally approved low-carbon strategies, the foundation is laid, and now it is important that action follows. And exactly about this, you will hear some examples in the next presentation, or in the next session. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and thank you for supporting many of the countries who are present with your technical knowledge. Thanks. I hope you can hear the applause. Thank you, colleagues. The comparative study that Elizabeth's presentation is based on is available on our website, so you can go and download and read in more detail if you are interested. I invite you to do so. Now I would like to move to the next part of our agenda. So we are now finalizing the work with setting the ambition and targets for our countries to become carbon neutral. But also we designed this event to learn about what exactly we are doing to become carbon neutral. So we will be now talking about the case from each country of how we are helping to enhance climate policy. So once again, in alphabetic order, I want to invite Armenia to present the national renewable energy and energy efficiency strategy.
First of all, I want to excuse because Deputy Minister has meeting with the Global Climate Fund and she moved. So as I know, we have to be short. So the case study for Armenia is about the renewable energy efficiency plan. As Armenia don't have indigenous fossil fuels, this is very critical for us to, from the energy security point of view, to think about renewable energy. And according to the analysis which was laid base for the study, was very critical to, besides the renewable energy improvement policy development, also to develop and to understand the impact of energy efficiency. And due to this study, which was supported by this regional project, was done enough analytical work and was developed 2020-2030. We can say this time frame was selected to meet to the NDC targets, Renewable Energy Action Plan, and the 3 years action plan for its implementation, with its selecting the priority areas which have most impactful for the GHG emission reduction. And these action plans will be renewed on the 3-year base in future. The one that now is actual is 2020-2024. And this will impact was calculated not only by the reduction of on generation side, but also the reduction that can be achieved on the demand side. Next slide, please. Energy saving and measures which was selected in this action plan shows that it's very important also to have a battery storage, and these two options are included: the battery storage, which can be linked to the PV station, or battery storage separately, and was done a certain investment plan. So this is now going to drive the feasibility study, which will be financed out of this project, but this project gave the direction and priority to this. On the demand side, the priorities are given to most energy consuming sectors. If possible, next slide. It's the consumption side was selected. It is the building sector, it is municipal, and the schools, which are can gain through these energy efficiency measures. But besides this, also was selected the industry sector and appliances. So these all are parts of this energy efficiency action plan, which will guide the authority, the Ministry of Energy, in its activities for this coming period. And these assumptions were used also for understanding to reduce dependence of Armenia from gas import. So because the gas is mostly also used directly in a building household sector, so the direction for long term is given to give priority to energy which can be more greened through the policy for renewable energy. And the target for renewable energy is based on energy strategy by 2040, when was put the target for increasing the energy production from the solar energy by 15%. I don't want to take more data about figures, because this is not critical, but want to just mention one thing. When there was a global stock-taking discussion in plenary, and there was questioned what type of capacity building examples you can bring as a success, I brought example that the most important is regional approach for cooperation, when the neighboring country with similar situation can share experience and learn from each other, and make also its governments to cooperate and to speak and to be jealous about others who are more successful in promoting policies. So this, I think, that is the most biggest advantage of this project, that brought our 6 countries more close to each other in policy shaping.
Thank you very much, Diana. Thank you, colleagues. I myself thank you. Very happy to hear not for the first time about the positive cooperation effects in this project. And now to showcase the work that is being done by EU for Climate in Armenia, can I please ask to start the video number 2? Video number 2.
Հայաստանի Հանրապետության կառավարությունը իր առջև խնդիր է դրել մինչև 2030 թվականը արևային էներգիայի մասնաբաժինը ընդհանուր արտադրության մեջ հասցնել 15%-ի կամ 1.8 միլիարդ կիլովատ-ժամ։
Մենք որոշեցինք ներդրում կատարել արևային էներգետիկայի մեջ, քանի որ տեսանք, որ այդ ոլորտը ոչ միայն այդ ներդրումը կատարելու պահին ձեռնտու էր, այլև հեռանկարային։ Այս ոլորտում ներդրումը մեր համար խոստումնալից է այն իմաստով, որ այն ապահովում է երկարաժամկետ կայուն զարգացում, ինչպես նաև որոշակի առումով բնականաբար պետք է հաշվի առնել ցածր ռիսկայնությունը այս ոլորտի ու կայունությունը։
Այսպիսով, Հայաստանի Հանրապետության կառավարության էներգիայի ոլորտում որդեգրած քաղաքականության եւ ստեղծված բարենպաստ պայմանների շնորհիվ արևային էլեկտրաէներգիայի կիրառումը շարեկան է բիզնես գործունեության
Thanks for being here. Thank you very much.
Եվ որ ամենակարևորն է, նպաստավոր է բնապահպանական տեսակետից։
So, colleagues, you had a chance to see just a fragment of the video showing the work that is being done by our colleagues in Armenia. So now moving on in alphabetic order, we have an online presentation of my colleague Nazim. Nazim, could you please try to switch on your microphone?
Yes, again. Hello to everyone. Nice to see you here. Unfortunately, I'm not there, but hope in the next meeting, in the next COP, I will be invited and I'll participate in your meeting. First of all, before I start my presentation, I would like to, on behalf of my colleagues from the ministry, I would like to express that they are very grateful for the invitation, and they said that unfortunately the participation in this meeting was kind of overlapped with other meetings, because the person who was going to participate in our meeting here, he is right in Cairo, and so therefore he cannot participate in our meeting because he has to take part in other place. That on behalf of them, I would like to say that Azerbaijan has already set several policies to pursue the low-carbon, climate-resilient development. The EU for Climate program, funded by EU, support the development and implementation of climate-related policies in Azerbaijan. So, of course, I would not take much of your time. It was just a short message from them. So they are very, very grateful for that. As for the presentation, my presentation, under the EU for Climate project, an analysis has been undertaken to explore the pathway towards integrating of this important aspect into the energy policy of Azerbaijan. And I'm happy to share with you the main findings and the suggestions of this analytics. This slide, this one in particular, presents the general understanding of the link between the gender issues and the energy policy, which is seen as a strategy based on gender equality, considering both women and men concerns and experience at all stages of the policy making process. Please to the next slide. This slide we see the percentage of females and males employed in various public sectors of Azerbaijan economy, where education, health, and the social sectors are those with the highest percentage of women employed. While the energy sector, as you see here from the picture, represents drastic gender disbalance with one of the lowest share of women employed. Please, next slide. This slide demonstrates similar statistics in private sector. However, we should note that there are no private energy enterprises. That is why for both men and women, the employment is shown as zero, as you see the second one. And next slide, please. In this slide, there is a summary of main principles on the mainstream gender into the energy sector, which envisages integrating gender perspectives into the decision-making, address gender inequalities, and support women economic empowerment. Please, next slide. The report prepared with support of the EU for Climate project suggests specific steps for integrating and mainstreaming gender concepts into the energy policy, considering both service demand side and the service supply side. This slide particular presents the steps or guiding elements, how to say, on the demand side, covering improved access to energy infrastructure by poor and low income groups and households headed by women. Introduction of clean energy sources in household routine, increase women entrepreneurship and employment opportunities, and implementation of user education programs. And the last slide, please. This is the last slide. This slide continues the discussion on the previous slide and presents mainstreaming steps from the service supply side. These steps may include promoting women's role as service providers, partners in public-private initiatives, addressing gender issues under human resource management strategies, and the building awareness among policymakers, government agencies, and the energy entities. At the conclusion, let me mention that the findings of this report have been shared with government and hopefully will be duly considered in the process of decision making and developing national energy policies and strategies. So that's it, colleagues. Thank you for your attention. I'm really pleased to be here, even virtually, today, and hope that COP27 will open new opportunities in addressing climate change and in streamlining gender and climate agenda into the national energy policies, as well as all other activities we are focused within the EU for Climate project. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Nazim. I hope you can hear the applause, and I think it's a very good example of moving forward the gender policies together with the climate policies. Now to present the work the project is doing in Azerbaijan, can I please ask to put up the video number 3?
It is a great pleasure you today at the EU Mobility Week event?
Today is, I think, a very good day for Absheron National Park for our team.
Greenhouse gas emission by 40%, which is
Walking and cycling are one of the best ways to reduce
the greenhouse gas emissions. Please, please, please save the planet, reduce your emissions.
So I hope you enjoyed this lively video and the story about sustainable transport in Azerbaijan. And now I would like to move in alphabetic order once again, and I'm inviting Georgia to present on the NDC finance and implementation plan. Maya, welcome.
Yeah, just take one, please. Have any seat you like.
Okay. I will have my laptop here so that I don't I don't need to look at that presentation. Tell me when it's there. Great, thank you so much. I'll be very brief. I know that everyone is already tired after the first quite tiring week. Can we go on the first slide already? Yeah. Yes, this one. I'll be presenting the climate finance strategy. Can you hear me well? I hope so. Yeah, great. Thanks. Which has been developed together with within the EU for Climate project. But before I go to that paper, briefly, I will also overview the NDC, which actually Nino Tandil already mentioned. So. Within the NDC, we have two types of commitment, the conditional and unconditional. In the conditional one, we say that we will reduce the 35% of the GHG emissions by 2030, and conditionally it will be 55%. However, in order not to be only like general statement commitments, we developed Georgia's climate change strategy and action plan. So the strategy is until 2030, and action plan is 2021-2023, which will be subject to update and revision by time. The climate change strategy includes the 7 sectors, the ones that we can mitigate the greenhouse gas emissions. It is the energy generation, transmission, transport, industry, forestry, buildings, agriculture, and waste sector. So we have the sectorial targets as well within the NDC, and Georgia is one of the few countries who also have the sectorial target in the NDC. This is how much costs our climate strategy so far. But this one is the unconditional part of our NDC for until the 2030. Actually, not the 2030, sorry, but for the 3-year action plan that we have developed, which have respective activities with the budget. So totally, it is about 7 to 8 billion Georgian lari. Around 8 billion Georgian lari, which half of them almost are for the state budget, and half of them are from the private sector. So there are quite a number of activities which which are implemented by the private sector. We had the deficit within the budget, which was around 300 million Georgian lari, and in order to fill those deficit activities, we quite closely worked with the NDC partnership and with our bilateral partners to implement those activities where we don't have, we didn't have the budget so far. Next slide, please. Okay. Additionally, so we know how much our unconditional target of the NDC costs. Together with the EU for Climate project, we developed the NDC finance strategy and investment plan because we wanted to see and to know, for example, how much it will cost for us, at least approximately, to go and to implement the conditional targets as well, because the conditional targets are subject to multilateral finance, bilateral finance, and etc. Within that process, so we have there has been several key issues that has been analyzed. One of them was the general framework for the climate finance in Georgia. Also, we have identified the barriers for adequate climate financing. There has been developed the recommendations and the guidelines for the resource mobilization, and also the investment plan and the roadmap has been developed. Next slide, please. Great, thanks. Several key issues that probably worth to highlight are the barriers that we have identified for climate financing the climate action, because based on the barriers, then you are able to somehow address those and to really support the financing in the climate action. So of course there has been mostly the barriers are around the private sector investment, because there is still lack of the climate finance in the private sector, because we know that it's still costly. So it's not, there are no there are no concessional finance available there, and etc. Also, there is no really very clear policy to mobilize climate. Actually, it was not very clear policy to mobilize climate finance. However, since the report has been developed, we have quite an advance in that direction. Additionally, the general problem that we had is that overall in the country we have the decreased revenues, increased expenditure, and we saw that there is a growing public debt. Of course, the high dependency on the foreign financing, which I think all of our type of the countries have this project, and lack of climate finance tracking, actually, which we already addressed by the tagging the state budgets with the climate change, and also developing the sustainable finance framework for the private sector. Next slide, please. When it comes to the guidelines to the resource mobilization, that has been identified, and also there has been investment plan identified. So within the investment plan, the way expert works, however, I should highlight that this is still expert judgment, so there was no much macroeconomic analysis behind those numbers. However, we saw that 8 billion Georgian lari for needs to be unconditional, to meet unconditional target for Georgia, but 5 billion lari extra would cost, which is around 2 billion USD for the mitigation commitment for the NDC, and also for the adaptation needs that has been identified within the NDC. It's roughly 5-6 billion Georgian lari will be needed to meet those targets. In terms of the guidelines for the resource mobilization, there has been several steps. First important one is to ensure the national institutional capacities. I think we are all having the capacity related problem in our countries. Also important is to assess the climate change financial needs more deeply and more in more details. And identifying the climate change funding sources has been one of the important issues within which we actually exercised and tried to somehow match the needs to the finance providers. Hi, Kaha. Thank you so much. That's briefly. Thanks.
Sorry, I think I need that one. This one doesn't work. Thank you very much, Maya, and I'm very, very proud to be able to work together with you to both develop this NDC finance plan, but also to help with the budget tagging exercise, which we both did as a part of EU for Climate. Now, may I please ask the video number 4 for Georgia, please?
იმდენად მაღალი ტემპერატურა, რომ ქარს საფარების ძილში რო არის ბალახი, ის მოსავლის აღების დროს ხმება და მე დაკვეთებს უკავი და თუ ერთი ხანძარი ეხსნავ და ვეღარ აკროთ ამ ხანძარს.
დაინტბოლა ტელეპლანტაცია წყალი ბებიში ისე რომ ადამიანი ფიზიკურად ვერ ახერხებდა რომ შესულიყო.
მოსავალის ხო გააფუჭა და მოაზის გააზიანა, რაც მომავალის ისმი მიდეს აღარ მიცი.
ნავალშიან ნარგავი გააფუჭა.
So this is a section of the video showcasing the effects of climate change already happening in Georgia. And now in alphabetic order, I would like to give floor to Moldova with the presentation on the fluorinated gas law. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I will try to be very concrete and fast, and I would like to thank to my colleagues for preparing this legal base, because first of all we need to have very good legal base in order to move ahead, and Moldova from this year it is a state candidate to EU, and we need to transpose EU directives, and via this case study it is study how we could transpose full entire directive of EU concerning F-gases. Next slide, please. So, Republic of Moldova is country part of Ozone Convention, and we are also part of all protocols. And now we are in the way to ratify Kigali amendment. And also, as a candidate state to EU, we have signed first association agreement with European Union, and we try to implement to transpose environmental directives as well climate directives. Next slide, please. So, as mentioned, we are in the way to ratify Kigali Protocol, and this protocol will be submitted by the end of this year together with draft of F-gases. Next slide, please. Our draft law, it is almost finished, and we before to draft this law, it was done case study, and it was estimated the amount of hydrofluorocarbons, and how we the amount of imported, the amount of used, and how we could slowly withdraw from our cooling system, switching to other environmental substances. Next slide, please. Based on case study, our colleagues collected the information about the consumption of F-gases in Republic of Moldova, and for the is based on this amount, it was established the that we will continue to use F-gases for the period as usual consumption for the period 2024 to 2028. But for starting for the first stage from 2029 to 2035, we will slightly reduce by 10% the consumption. In the second stage, we will reduce 20%, and by the end of 2045, we would like to use only 20% level of F-gases. This we consider that is main measures of impact of climate change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And this is one more really key part of EU for Climate's work, helping our partner countries to both introduce the elements of EU legislation, but now as our countries are becoming candidates to the EU, I'm really, really happy that we are able to help with the accession process. So now I would like to ask for the video number 5 for Moldova, please.
Hey, listen to what I gotta say. Do you want me to tell you a disturbing truth? Nothing we did today will matter in 20 years. What the boss said at the meeting or how much that new car costs. Nothing. Because in a few years, this Earth will not be able to hold us. Nature has no time. Anyway, in 20 years, we'll wake up in a desert. And we go towards that consciously. As our bank accounts grow, so do our abnormally high temperatures, droughts, floods, while we invest in modern technologies and houses. We have nothing to breathe when we are out for a walk. As we progress in our careers, our water reserves suddenly drop. Look around. The Earth doesn't care about our success. Moldova is amongst the most vulnerable countries in Europe to climate change. If we don't take measures to mitigate and adapt to climate change, we risk becoming a semi-desert country in 2050. Our children deserve a better future.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video called The Climate Monster, prepared by the colleagues in Moldova. And now in alphabetic order again, last but definitely not least, I want to give the floor to Ukraine. Mikhailo, please.
Dear colleagues, I would like to shortly introduce you to the Ukrainian national adaptation strategy, which was developed in close collaboration on all stages, drafting, approval, etc., with the project EU for Climate. First slide, please. First of all, I would like to underline that despite of present the world environmental security, this document is fully devoted to climate change adaptation issues and was developed on the fulfillment of the presidential decree adopted in September 2020. For the drafting of this document, the ministry established a special working group of over 150 people from government agencies, from academia, NGO, etc., etc. And during the drafting of the strategy, there were about 10 or 11, I don't remind exactly, meeting of this working group. Next slide, please. On October 2021, the government of Ukraine has endorsed this strategy. This strategy sets the framework for adaptation action in Ukraine and defines 11 vulnerable and sectors in economy and natural components. namely biodiversity, water resources, energy, public health, fisheries, agriculture and soils, forestry, cities and territorial committees, sorry for my English, transport and infrastructure, coastal areas and tourism. By 2024, these sectors are to undergo an analysis of their climate vulnerability and risk they face. Next slide, please. The strategy also includes action plan for 2021-2023, which consists of 28 activities. The main task for this period is to develop, first of all, climate risk and vulnerability assessment methodologies for key sectors. Second one, undertake of sectoral climate risk and vulnerability assessment based on these methodologies, develop of relevant sectoral action plan, and develop of indicators on climate change impact for social economic sectors and natural component, which will be used for monitoring and evaluation in the future. Next slide, please. On the next 3 slides, you can see the key actions which shall be fulfilled in accordance with action plan. The first slide is key guidelines and methodological recommendation. They have to be finalized by the end of this year, as you see. Next slide, please. The next slide, undertake climate risk and vulnerability assessment and develop action plan. Many of them are for 2024. Next slide, please. And additional supporting actions as an example. Next slide, please. And finally, monitoring and evaluation issues. First of all, the Ministry of Environment Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine is responsible for organization, coordination, and operational issue under this strategy. A report on status of the strategy implementation must be published every year on annual basis by 1st March. This report based on the reports from responsible government bodies and different experts, NGO, academia, etc. can join in drafting this report. The general assessment of the strategy implementation shall be done in 2026 and 2031 and submitted to the National Security and Defense Council and the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine. What I like to say, despite of war, with some delays, we are fulfilling this action plan. And in this regards, I would like to express again my big gratitude to the Project EU for Climate for work done, as well for undergoing work under this action plan. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mikhailo, and I want to say that I'm very proud to be able to work with you and the ministry's team, and that despite the ongoing war, you are still able to be focused on developing and implementing the climate policies. So with this, can I please ask the video number 6, please?
Sorry, small comments. Because of war, we lost all our wine generation because it was concentrated in the south of Ukraine. Absolutely lost. Thank you. But we restore it. Really.
Thank you very much, Mikhailo. And once again, I'm very proud to work with you and the team. Despite the war, despite all conditions, we were able to move on with the climate agenda. So, colleagues, this is the end of the formal agenda of our event. Unfortunately, our colleagues Dimitrios and Srilata had to leave because I hope everybody understands the COP is very busy and they have many other things. So I just want on behalf of everybody here thank the European Union for their financial support and for being able to lead our countries by example to the results that we were able to present today. I'm looking forward to work with all of you during the next year and to reach even more compared to what we already done. So thank you, and if anybody wants to make any final remarks, you're very welcome. Okay, everybody's exhausted, I understand, but thank you very much for coming here and staying until the end of the event on Saturday evening. Thanks, and I'm wishing you a good evening and relaxing Sunday tomorrow.
I want to thank you, Evgen, because you put a lot of energy in organizing this event and all others as well. Thank you. And because also I know that it's not easy to organize event in the COP. So I think it was due to all your efforts and also organizing all these nice videos and everything was important for us to know that the work is going on. Thank you.
Thank you for the kind words, and I'm happy that we could see each other in one place. So thanks again, and wishing you a good evening.
Thank you, colleagues, for making it happen. Special thanks to Evgen. Thank you very much, Evgen. Thank you for hard work. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, colleagues online. With this, we will be closing the Zoom call as well. So, Agavni, if I may ask you to stop the recording and close the Zoom now. Thanks. Bye. Is there a hand raised? Is there a hand raised in Zoom? So sorry, just no, not anymore. Okay.